What are you up to today? What are you doing?
I am currently walking down to my little flat where I'm living at the moment,
Nice.
and I'm just probably going to write some music with my mate who's living upstairs, and went for a run this morning. Had a nice morning, and
Beautiful,
yeah, it's
man.
been good, man. Just keeping it chill,
Beautiful, mate.
vibing. Yeah,
Nice. You got to do that in
the
these
usual,
times, man. Yeah, you got to keep it chilled as much as you
Exactly,
can
bro.
at these times. Sweet, man. Well,
Exactly.
yeah.
Luckily, I have some really great housemates, so
Oh yeah.
I'm able to kind of do what I want and not feel too isolated. So I'm all good, man.
100%, man. It's good to have a good support network around you as well, for sure, dude. That's like,
Yeah.
it's nice. It's nice to acknowledge that as well. Obviously, a lot of people are struggling. So I'm glad to hear you're safe and happy, mate. Anyway.
Thank you, dude.
Cool. Well, yeah, Harry, man. I just wanted to ask you today to start off with, man, because obviously you've done very well. You've achieved a lot of success. A lot of people behind you at this stage in your sort of musical career as Kid Brunswick. So, what does success mean to you as a person, dude? Well, obviously you can talk musically, but you yourself as a person, because it means different things to different people. So, how do you define success?
Success is for me isn't defined by like sort of achievements with money and that sort of thing. I think right now I feel really happy with how things are going, and I have a great sort of a great support network, really good friends. I'm very close with my family now, and mum and my little sister.
Yeah. Oh, you've gone, dude. Hang on. Hey, man. Don't know what happened.
Sorry about it, dude. I don't know what happened.
Don't worry, man. We'll keep trying. So yeah, sorry, man. You were saying about your mum, your closeness to your mum and your little sister.
Yeah. I've got a really good sort of a really nice vibe at the moment with my family, and I don't have any money. I'm pretty much broke, but I feel very successful within myself as a human being. I've achieved a lot for myself. Not music-wise, just as sort of like finding out who I am as a person, and trying to live a happy and sort of fulfilled spiritual life. That's kind of, that for me is more success than earning loads of money and living in Los Angeles in a mansion. I feel like I hope if I got if I became a really big artist, I hope I wouldn't lose sight of that, and luckily with the people around me, I don't think I will. So success for me is kind of just being able to live the life you want to and being happy within yourself. That's pretty much that's all you can really ask for in life.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's a good answer. I guess as a follow-on from that, how I was going to ask you about your sort of biggest artistic challenges outside of, obviously, COVID is one of them, but similarly finding that spiritual kind of sort of connecting with yourself, that must be quite challenging. A lot of people get lost in the race to succeed, and trying to get to that LA mansion. You know what I mean? So, did you find any challenges getting to that point where you were happy in yourself? Because a lot of people don't ever get there, man.
Yeah, it is very challenging because you can get caught up with social media and see how people are living their lives, and you want to live how they live, and in reality, you don't know what's going on in their personal lives.
Yeah.
So I find it a very sort of like a sort of ongoing process, an ongoing sort of challenge where I can wake up one day and not feel grateful for all the things I have in my life, and I want someone else's life, which I think many people go through, artists and people that aren't artists as well, just as human beings. So I think the biggest challenge is kind of staying grounded and not trying to fantasize about the future, and kind of being present in the now, and not worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow, and you know, that's a daily challenge that can kind of occur where I'm you know, focused on goals that either aren't realistic or attainable for where I am right now. And you know, as long as I can just do certain things during the day, I'm okay. Like as long as I can go for a run or work out and meditate and pray and call people, I'm all good. I don't need to worry about that shit, you know.
That's cool.
Because at the end of the day, you're not going to achieve anything by worrying about stuff, and you're not going to better your life. So for me, it's just kind of like it's an ongoing process of kind of going back and forward between feeling grateful and then wanting someone else's life. But I think social media has a big part to play in that.
Yeah.
I think if you're living at home, especially like I have been until literally a couple of weeks ago, you know, that's a big part of it as well, where you don't have your own space.
Yeah.
And I think having your own space is really important to kind of realize what's important in your life and what you kind of hold dear to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I mean, that's a really interesting point you make. I mean, we work with, part of my day job is working with young people with their sort of specific mental health issues coming from difficult backgrounds. And they, you know, they're working like they want to be musicians or creative artists or whatever, but they get lost in social media. They say, I'm never going to be like Kid Brunswick. I'm never going to have that level of success on Spotify. I'm never going to have that many followers on social media. What would be your, not to try and make this like a self-help interview or whatever, but what would be your key tips for people to try and break away from that, break away from that kind of cycle of you know, checking your social media, worrying about that, because you have been successful, you do get a lot of streams, but how do you kind of separate yourself from that, really?
Well, I mean, I guess the answer to that is that, you know, it's all fake.
Yeah.
None of it's real.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's someone's own personal journey to go through.
Yeah.
And, you know, if for anyone, for self-help, like, the best thing to do would actually be to get people to watch the Social Media Dilemma on Netflix.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Watch the Social Dilemma and see how much it manipulates you, and then you'll realize, it's actually all bullshit. You know, it's you know, social media is the fucking devil. It's also amazing, but it's you know, it's made for ads.
Yeah.
It's a money making machine. It's a big, you know, industrial machine that doesn't stop. It never sleeps. It's always there. So social media is something that's never going to stop. It's never going to go away.
Yeah.
Your life will, and your time will.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be, you know, valuing your life based on a fucking internet website.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot of stuff happens on Instagram, but it's, you know, like, you're not going to achieve anything by scrolling. You know?
Yeah.
What the fuck is that going to do for your life? You know, and look, everyone's guilty.
Yeah.
You can't say, if you have an iPhone, you can't say, or any sort of phone that has internet connection, and you have Instagram, you can't preach to people about what they should be doing if you're doing it yourself. But you can give advice on how, you know, how it affects you. And the way it affects me is it makes me feel shit about myself. So I try and put little boundaries in place during the day, which is, okay, instead of me going on Instagram, I'm just going to listen to a really nice album and put it on a speaker. And, you know, music is a great distraction from social media, I find.
Yeah.
And I think it's really hard because, like, you know, I've got a little sister, she's 15, she spends her life on TikTok, you know, and she never really used to be into that, but also she's 15, so she's going to go through it. But I think when your social media starts to control you as a human being, that's when you know you've got a fucking problem. But it takes a long time for you to kind of wake up and realize that.
Yeah, dude.
Just like if you had like a problem with alcohol or drugs, you know, it takes a long time for you to come out and be like, oh shit, I have a problem. Yeah. With social media, it seems so harmless because it's just a little tablet that you go on and you scroll through. It's like, where's the real danger here?
Yeah.
But it really affects your mental health over a long period of time, over a prolonged period, because the amount of dopamine that's going into your brain is just unreal. It's like it is a drug in some way. So, you know, it's just about understanding it and educating people about it. I think there needs to be a lot more done for education on social media, and I think there will be in the years to come.
Yeah.
Especially now that people are talking about the dangers of it.
Yeah.
But it all starts with education. Once you understand it, then you can learn how to, you know, gain some control back in your life over fantasizing about other people's lives and stuff. And you know, it's all about finding your own identity in yourself rather than through an iPhone.
100%,
you know?
yeah, 100%.
And it's just, you know, and the thing is, it's like, if someone asks me saying like, oh dude, like I've got a really big problem, I can't get off my phone, it's like, well, if you're on your phone, go on your phone right now and go onto Netflix and watch The Social Dilemma, because then at least you'll have some education, right? And then just watch YouTube videos about it.
Yeah.
Because once you have that sort of knowledge, you know, it's always going to be in the back of your mind when you're scrolling. It's always going to be there. So you'll be able to kind of have that feeling of, oh, maybe I should stop doing this now. And then eventually, it might not happen today or tomorrow, but it will eventually, where you're like, oh, okay, I'm actually not going to go on social media for the next 3 hours. And then you don't. And you're like, oh, I can do this. It's not too bad.
Yeah, man. There's some good tips there, man. And I guess the next question I had planned, it's going to sound like a bit of a challenge versus what we just talked about. But one of the things I really like about your vibe is you've got a really good strong visual element to what you do. You know, your visuals are good, the videos are cool, and I guess I wanted to ask you how important that aspect of your sort of brand, because you seem to have developed quite a nice little brand around the Kid Brunswick sort of name. How important is that visual aspect to what you do?
I'd say it's about 40% of Kid Brunswick, because like the music is one thing and the music speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Unless you have something that is attention grabbing and eye grabbing in this sort of age that we live in, like no one really gives a shit, you know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's extremely important to have something that represents you as an artist and also makes you seem really interesting, and if you can do that naturally, then that's fucking great. If you have to put it on like a lot of artists do, then that's also cool as well, as long as it works for you and your brand. I think for me, my whole thing was I've always loved skeletons. I've always loved tattoos, skeletons, and like weird graffiti and stuff like that. You know, I'm really interested in street art and street culture, and you know, I grew up listening and watching loads of documentaries about Banksy and Basquiat and loads of other artists that were kind of contemporary art, and you know, Pollock and all these people that I just found really interesting because they were kind of breaking the boundaries of what abstract art was and street art. And you know, I was like, okay, well, I love that, and I also love horror movies, so if I can merge those two worlds together, then that'd be really cool. So in a lot of the songs that I'm releasing, you know, I kind of add some sort of train spotting trippiness to it, because a lot of the songs that I wrote, you know, I wrote when I was in a really bad place. And it's about kind of transforming that into a visual element. So if someone was watching it on the tube and you looked over their shoulder and saw they were watching, you're like, oh, that looks cool, that's really interesting, what the hell are they watching, that looks horrible, I really want to watch that. You know, just like I remember being on the tube once, and this guy was reading a book, and I looked at the page, and it was about, there was a story about a girl getting molested or something by like a grandparent or something, and it was a fictional book, but I couldn't stop reading it because it just grabbed my attention, because it was so horrific and it was so weird that someone was reading that on the train in broad daylight. I couldn't stop reading it. So with videos, it's kind of like you kind of want to have something there. I mean, everything I do at the moment is sort of low budget at the moment. So I'm trying to do as best as I can, but like if you saw a music video on you know, in a public place, and it had some weird dark trippiness to it, but it didn't look too try hard, you know, it would immediately catch your attention. So that's kind of what I try to do with my visuals. I try and make it accessible, but also kind of, you know, a bit dark, a bit moody, and sort of aesthetically in a sort of like Tumblr sort of way, because I used to love Tumblr.
Tumblr was fun. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, Tumblr was great. That was the last great social media before it all became this human killing machine.
Nice one. Yeah, I like that. As a human killing machine is a good sort of soundbite. Do you like
a name for a band?
It is. Human killing machine. Yeah, totally. As an extension of that, then, because obviously, you know, we talked about it. Do you ever find, you know, you'll find a great image, or you'll get something to share from, you know, you'll have something to share, but then it'll be like 1 a.m. or whatever, and you'll be like, shit, I probably shouldn't be on social media now. I think that's the problem. I think with a brand like yours is there's so many visual sort of cues you can do, and obviously you're always putting out content. Do you ever find it challenging not to sort of, you know, break your kind of your social media? You know, you'll have like three hours off or whatever, you know, like we were saying. Do you ever find it challenging to not like want to post images all the time or post stuff all the time, because you've got a lot of content to put out?
Yeah, I've got, you know, hundreds of images, loads of videos, and I just kind of retain from it, because I know that if I posted more I could get more followers. I know that if I posted more I'd get more likes, and that would make me feel better about myself in an ego sense. But like, you know, I kind of I don't see the point of posting every day unless you've got a new song out, because I'm fine with posting on stories and showing people what I'm up to, but in terms of like posting all the time, I just know that I'll be refreshing my feed constantly, seeing who liked it, and then scrolling through their profile, and then, you know, 10 minutes later I'm on their distant cousins related dogs account. I don't know how I've ended up there. So I find it difficult, yes, but also I'm starting to be very patient and just understand that, you know, every good thing takes time. You can't rush things. There's no point in rushing things. If you overload people with information, their sensories will just be like, dude, this is too much Kid Brunswick. I can't deal with things. You know, it's all about picking the right time, and timing is everything. So I think, you know, for me, I'll post maybe once every 2 weeks, or once a week, once every 2 weeks, and that's about it. And I think it's just kind of like, you know, I'm very engaged with my fans. I talk to people every day. I FaceTime people if they want to FaceTime, you know, but when it comes to posting photos and stuff, you know, that's very, it's a very egocentrical thing, to be doing if you're doing it every single day. And also as well, you just end up looking like an Instagram influencer. It's not, that's not what you're about. If you're an artist and you really care about your credibility and your identity, then you don't need to tell people who you are every day. You already know who you are, you know.
100%, man. I like that. 2 or 3 more questions now, man. One of the things I loved about when I first heard you was Prescription Kid, and then I heard Skinny. And I know you've talked about music as a catharsis in previous interviews, but I wanted to ask you, you know, because you know, with those tracks, there's so much honesty in there, and so much, you know, you know what I mean. There's not really a lot of hiding away or metaphors. There's a lot of really sort of like, it's like a story, you know. You get the visuals when you're talking. People can picture what you're going through or whatever, you know, in your head, or they can picture where you're at. And I wanted to sort of ask you about your inspirations, where you were, what you were thinking, if you don't mind, because I know you said that you went through some quite difficult stuff when you were, you know, when you've been writing. Well, you know, where were you? What were you thinking when you were putting these songs together? What locations were you in, and what kind of mindset were you in, if you don't mind, with those tracks in particular? But you know, there's obviously a wider question there with regards to your inspirations when writing.
Okay, well, I mean, so I recently got out of rehab, and before that I was kind of like, you know, on and off being homeless, sleeping on floors and studio floors, and a lot of those songs kind of came from a place of, you know, just pure drug addiction, basically. Which, you know, I couldn't get a day sober since I was 11. So, you know, it was a pretty horrific time. But, you know, me getting sober has been the best thing, because I can now take a step back and see where I was and how far I've come now. And back then, it was just, you know, it was the only time I could be honest with myself. You know, I couldn't admit that I had a drug problem. I couldn't admit that I was an alcoholic. I could only admit that when I was making music, I felt happy. So I just kept doing that. And when I wrote Prescription Kid, I think I'd just come back from. I went fucking nuts, dude. I went to Barcelona, I think. No, I went to Thailand. By myself. I was getting so sick and tired of being in London, addicted to drugs and not being able to feel any emotion, that I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna pack a bag, I'm gonna book a flight tonight and spend the last bit of money that I have from my record contract when I was 17. I'm gonna fly out to Thailand and have a massive fucking spiritual experience. It just turned out to be a massive booze fest, basically.
Right, yeah.
And a load of magic mushrooms. And, you know, anyway, it ended in a really bad way, and I lost all my stuff, and I had to come home early. But when I came home, I was really fucking pissed off because I'd lost everything.
I can imagine,
and,
yeah. Fucking hell.
And I just went into the studio, and, you know, this was kind of like around the time that there were like so many school shootings happening in America. It was almost weekly at this point.
Yeah.
Where, you know, I've been a massive fan of Nirvana since I was a kid, and I love the fact that he wrote so much controversial lyrics based on the fact that he was writing from the perpetrator's point of view.
Yeah.
So songs like Rape Me, and songs like In Bloom, and, you know, Lithium, and Polly, where he's talking about a real story where someone, you know, tortured and raped this girl. You know, it's like it's coming. He writes it from the rapist's point of view, and I thought that was such a fucking weird thing to do, but also kind of amazing, because most artists will always, you know, if they're making a song about like Youngblood, for example, he wrote a song called Fuck the NRA, right? And the chorus is fuck the NRA, fuck the NRA, fuck the NRA. And I agree with that completely. Fuck the NRA. But I thought it'd be interesting to write from a sort of fucked up kid that's going to go and shoot a school up. So Persistent Kid is about, it kind of takes a first person account of a kid who's saying, listen, let's go get a gun, Bonnie, we don't have to live. Ruin my life with this American shit.
Yeah.
So basically it's kind of talking down on the whole system of America.
Yeah.
But and the NRA, and how easy it is to buy guns and easy it is to be prescribed drugs as long as you can pay for them in America. But it's also taking it from the sort of, you know, the guilty as charged person's point of view, where he's kind of been let down by a system that never really cared for him, and he's obviously psychotically unwell, so he decides to go and get a gun and shoot people. And, you know, that was kind of just like, despite all the shit I was going through, I just kind of thought, you know, it'd be interesting to write something where it was super angry, super fast, and had a clever way of writing it, instead of just saying, you know, fuck school shooters and stuff like that, which I do agree with. Fuck school shooters, but it's also more interesting to write from a school shooter's perspective than just saying fuck school shooters. You know. So that's kind of what I was going through at the time. But the amazing thing about music is the fact that even despite all the shit that was going on in my personal life, I had enough free headspace to write something which I was really proud of, which is something that, you know, is very hard to do when you're going through drug addiction. But but that's the magic of this thing. It transcends all sort of boundaries in your personal life. If you get the right connection one day and you're in the right time and place, it literally is all about timing. You can get connected to this sort of like higher power where you don't really know what you're doing, and then 10 hours later you're in the studio listening back to what you've made, and you're just like, fucking hell, how did this happen? Where did the time go? I haven't eaten in 12 hours, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how all the songs were made. It was just like this sort of energy that came to me on a certain day at a certain time in either my studio or someone else's studio, wherever I was living, around London, and they would just kind of come together, and it was just really exciting. You know, it was just really exciting. And eventually I went into rehab to get sober because of music, because I was stopped being able to connect to that sort of energy, and I just used it out too many times, and I was just like, dude, I got to get sober because I can't write any more music. So I went and did that, and now I feel back, and I'm better than ever.
Nice,
and
man. Congratulations.
And it's just a really exciting time, man. I'm really excited.
Dude, I'm excited for you. Congratulations, man. That's really cool.
Thank you, man.
Before we finish off, I wanted to so there's two or three more. I wanted to ask you how you feel about, you know, when you brought out We Surround Ourselves with Chaos. Was that, you know, obviously looking back at that now, in terms of what it did for you, in terms of launching your profile, being able to put stuff out, you know, how do you look back at that collection of songs? I guess, I'm assuming here, but I guess you sort of that was a time where you were going through all these emotions, and I guess it's a time that you want to leave behind now as you move forward into this.
Yeah, I don't fucking listen to any of those songs, man. I don't listen to any of those songs just because it's so like, you know, like it's a very emotional project. It's a very like sort of sad sort of like, I don't even know. It's just like a very sort of for me it seems like an elementary sort of project for me now, just because I've come so far since then, musically and personally as well. Yeah. But you know, there's just like a lot of pain on that project, and it's not pain in a way where you're like listening to Lil Peep and it's just talking about drugs and killing yourself the whole time. You know, the lyrics for those subjects are all in that project. They're just hidden away within metaphors and within other lyrics. You know, and it's just it was just a very, very, very dark time. I was in a very abusive physically relationship with a girl, and that's what Cold Sore's about. And No Better is about this girl that I knew that killed herself at a party. And then Nevermind was about this girl that I was in love with, who, you know, she gave me a Facebook login for some reason. I think we were like setting up an account or something for one of our friends. We were going to troll one of our mates. And she sent me a login, and I found out that, you know, I was in love with this girl, and she'd been basically cheating on me the entire time. And it kind of broke my heart a little bit. Yeah, dude, that project is just like a fucking boy's like heartbroken sad boy hours project. Like, I can't listen to that shit because right now I'm just like, let's get a gun, Bunny, we don't have to live. I don't want to listen to like any of that sad shit. But you know, If is connected really well. People love that song. You know, I do feel like one day, you know, maybe one day in the future, maybe like 10 years from now or something, I might do like a little Chaos tour, because I never got to do a Chaos tour because it's obviously still really early in my career. And I still haven't done a tour yet, but I know I will do next year. So, you know, I think it's something I'm very proud of, in terms of the fact that I got it out and I was able to make all those songs when I was completely fucked up. And, you know, I was getting in car crashes, I was getting arrested. It was just all this it was chaos. And that's what the project is about. It was, you know, I surround myself with chaos because ever since being a kid, you know, I grew up in a very chaotic, abusive household, and that's what I've been, you know, familiar with my whole life. So going into my teens, I started doing it for myself. You know, I started surrounding myself with that chaotic energy, and it just got crazier and crazier. And I just, you know, I had this idea to just like write a project about it. And there's like loads of voice notes from people on there and stuff, like whenever I went missing and stuff, and people would call me, I'd hear all these voicemails like a month later. And I'd be like, fucking hell, like that's crazy. So I just put them on the project at some points, and there's just a lot of stuff on there, you know, that I think is actually, you know, for the fact that, you know, I was around 16, 17 making all those songs, you know, it's not bad for a 17-year-old when, you know, you can listen to Billie Eilish's stuff, which is way ahead of that, but I was producing all that stuff myself. And, you know, making it all through a laptop in a bedroom. And it's a lot harder to do that than having, you know, a really close family member being able to kind of guide you through it. So I wasn't able to be guided. I had to guide myself through it, which was a massive challenge. But I'm learning how to do that better now. You know, I still have the same writing and producing process, and I do it all myself. And I need to, you know, I feel like I've kind of, you know, the new songs that are coming out, dude, I'm just absolutely blown away by the fact that I've made them, because I don't believe it. It's like I'm almost like my own biggest fan in a way, because I love that type of music. I grew up on the type of music that I make, you know, so it's really, really nice to see the progression, I guess.
No, man, absolutely. And like I say, it's good you've got to that point. It sounds like you've gone through a lot of catharsis, you know, connecting with your family and stuff as well again, and then obviously going through this record. So I'm pleased you've been able to do that, man. It's awesome. Thank you. It sounds like you've got to a really good point. I wanted to ask you about your inspirations outside of music, as well, in terms of, you know, obviously like movies, games, things like that. I know we've talked about Skeletons and the visual side of it, and Banksy and those types of things. But do you have any kind of movies or games or anything that you draw from?
Yeah, dude, oh my god, I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan.
Nice.
I'm a Hans Zimmer fan.
Yeah.
So he's like his soundtracks for films is what really moves me, and that's something I'm getting into. I'm actually about to make my first soundtrack for a little TV series in the next few weeks, which I'm really excited about.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And I my hobbies include playing Warzone with my boys. I fucking love that.
Yeah.
It's like my boys' time. And I kind of feel like a kid again when I kind of log on every night and play like an hour of just shooting the shit out of people, and it's a lot of fun. And then I think in terms of people that I really aspire to, Travis Scott is one musically, just because of how much he's achieved and how he created an entire culture. And in terms of like sort of inspirational people, I think David Goggins as someone that can really get me out of bed in the morning, someone that calls me a bitch if I don't get out of bed. And sometimes I feel like tough love is sometimes what you need, even if you are depressed. Sometimes a little kick can just kind of make you wake up and be like, right, I got to fucking get out of bed now, and you push yourself up. Man. And he's a really, really good person for me to aspire to. There's actually other people as well, like Casey Frey, an Instagram comedian who's sober as well. Sweet. I find a lot of inspiration from sober people. People like Robert Downey Jr. as an actor. He was seriously addicted to drugs, and he made it through, and he's an amazing inspiration to people like me now. And there's some other people as well in my private life that I hold as mentors, and my main mentor is this guy called Jake Manson, who was a DJ called do you know the production group Blonde?
I may have heard the name, but yeah. Anyway, tell me more.
They had that song All Cried Out, which
right?
Was,
Oh yeah.
So he was this huge DJ in his early 20s. He's like 29 now, and he toured the world, and he basically came back to London like a few years ago and started working on other people's music, and he Blonde kind of split up, I guess, to some extent. And he was just like a free agent producer, getting paid to do big songs and stuff like that. And I ended up just being in a session with him one day, and since that day we've basically become best friends, and he is my mentor now. He makes sure that I have money, he makes sure that I'm fed, and like all this random sort of stuff. Like I always call him, like, as a weird sexual joke, I call him my daddy, and he hates it. He fucking hates it so much. So that's, I always say, hey daddy, how you doing? And he's just he's someone that I aspire to be. He's got his life in order, he's got a really lovely girlfriend, and he's got a beautiful flat in Hoxton. He works on stuff that he wants to work on now. He doesn't really do shitty jobs unless he really has to. And he's also an amazing producer, an amazing mixer, and he mixes all my records. So he finishes all my records.
Nice.
So all the songs are the new songs, like Prescription Kid and Skinny, and all the stuff that's coming out has all been done by me and him. And that relationship is kind of like I mentioned Travis Scott. Travis Scott has a really good relationship with his producer Mike Dean. And Jake is sort of my Mike Dean in a way.
Nice.
He's like an OG producer who's not much older than me, but he just has so much knowledge, and we're both massive nerds in certain aspects. I'm a massive nerd for sort of vocal techniques and sort of guitars and amplifiers, and Jake's a massive nerd in how to make a kick drum sound fatter, so he'll watch like extensive video.
Oh, you've gone again. Oh shit. Oh, you're back. I've got it.
There we go.
Still got it. Yeah, right. So you were talking about the fat kick drum.
But no, so he just spends a load of time basically figuring out how to make records sound better. And I basically spend loads of time figuring out how to write better songs and how to experiment, and it's just a really, really great working relationship we have. Every song that I make, I send it over to him straight away before anyone else. Nice. And he's just he's a big mentor, and I think especially if there's anyone that wanted to be a musician, the first thing that I could say is, figure out what you want to do and who you want to be, and then find yourself in a place where you can latch on to someone that's had more experience than you, that you really get on with and learn from them. Because I've learned so much from Jake, and he's always made decisions based on knowing who I am rather than knowing what would sell better, because I've got a load of songs that could be really big, but they're a lot poppier, and they're not really sort of what I want to be going down the route of.
Yeah.
And he's always kind of stuck by that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. It's a good message to people as well. And last question then. You're probably going to think this is a bit blasphemous since you're about to do a soundtrack, but if you could rip out the soundtrack of any existing film and replace it with Kid Brunswick, what film would you pick and why?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sorry. So if you can rip out the soundtrack, if you could rip out the soundtrack of any existing film and replace it with your music, what film would you pick and why?
That's a very good question. That's a very, very good question. Oh, you know what film I choose?
Go on.
I choose a film called Old Boy.
Oh yeah.
It's a thriller mystery about a man who's like, he was like, jailed for years, and then he's given a cell phone, money, and expensive clothes, and he's released. And basically, the amount of violence that's in that film, and then also the sadness as well.
Yeah. That
kind of explains my sort of upbringing, really, if I'm being honest. Right. Obviously, I didn't witness any murders, but that sort of chaos of that film, that fucking mental film,
I've seen that.
Is just, I wouldn't say I was gonna say Kill Bill, but Tarantino's way too classy for me. I'd say Old Boy, man. Old Boy's like got that grunge element to it.
Yeah.
It's fucking a straightforward fucking slasher action film.
Yeah.
And it's also got a load of sadness as well with his son.
Yeah.
And that would be me. Old Boy, man. Old Boy is a fucking great movie.
Yeah,
I love
man.
that film.
Yeah, there's an original in there. There's the Japanese original, and then they remade.
Yeah, there is the original. I haven't seen the original. I just couldn't. I couldn't watch this film.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy, man. But yeah, no, thank you, dude, Harry. Thank you so much for your time today, mate. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to catching up with you down the road, mate.